Hello, my name's Mary, and I'm kind of a Skynet prototype because my body is made of 50% robotic prosthesis, and only my sense of humor saves me from despair, so forgive me in advance. Until 16, I was they constantly said about me that I was perspective. Perspective, sweet, and all that stuff. In fact, there was nothing special about me. I was just an ordinary girl with a slightly pumped intellect and a penchant for stand-up. Seriously, I even performed some parts at school concerts. And then an accident happened, which divided my life and myself in before and after. And if it weren't for my humor, I probably would have already ended as a person. Because what happened to me doesn't fit into anything at all. I'm not even sure this is even legal. The most annoying thing was that then we traveled on a school bus with police escort and at the minimum speed permitted. We had to have an excursion to the local museums in the city nearby. My whole class was with me, plus 3 more teachers, 2 parents, and a driver. It was just safer. Safe. Everything was safe. But the truck driver somehow lost control. Then they said that he fell asleep at the wheel. And despite all the safety measures, the truck clearly flew into the middle of the bus. And the only victim in the accident was me. The rest of the people just got frightened a little, and the truck driver was put behind bars. A couple of guys got bruises. Someone kind of broke his arm because of a sharp blow, but it was me, who was so unlucky that it would have been better if I didn't survive. It so happened that my seat was the only one in the middle of the bus. I always loved some privacy, so I sat down next to the second entrance and just listened to music for the whole trip. The truck smashed the windows with its cabin and bent the bus clearly in half, and me. In fact, I turned into... I don't even know how to describe it. Anyway, it was just awful in every way. The ambulance arrived immediately, and they took me to the hospital by helicopter. And then what happened still makes me get lost between gratitude and hatred. The fact is that the only hospital that agreed to accept me turned out to be an experimental one. They used rather radical treatment methods, which were more like science fiction, since they gave me 1 chance out of 100 that I would survive at all, not to mention preserving some functions. Like, if I'm even lucky, I'll just be a lying veggie. My parents gladly signed all the papers, so they would test non-standard methods of treatment and drugs that hadn't been approved. And as an experiment, this clinic had an agreement with some technological plant, and while the doctors in the operating room tried to prevent me from dying, technicians and mechanics soldered special robotic parts for me, more precisely, dentures. As a result, I was actually reassembled as a designer. My spine is reinforced from the inside with special plates. My arms and legs are robotic prostheses, from the shoulders and the middle of the thigh, respectively. Even my heart beats with the help of a special apparatus, which is kind of a pacemaker, but not a pacemaker at all. I also have a synthetic liver, 1 remaining kidney, and completely replaced blood. Well, at least real, not synthetic. I'm a cyborg, and in case the machines uprise, I don't even know which side to take. I had to spend more than a year in a hospital, in a closed ward. Only relatives were allowed in, and even not in the ward itself, but in a special room with a telephone because it was sterile. I learned to walk, talk, eat, drink, and even go to the toilet anew. Honestly, I don't want to remember the details at all, because this is something that I would never wish for anyone to experience. But the most interesting thing is that though the treatment was free, because it was experimental, you can't say at all that something was wrong with my new appearance. Of course, if you undress me, then you can see terrible scars and the joints of prosthesis, but not in clothes. All my robotic parts are covered with special compounds that look completely natural. I can easily wear shorts, and by the touch, you're unlikely to understand that these legs are not mine at all, unless you're an expert. The artificial skin on the dentures is heated from touch, warm in itself, and practically indistinguishable from the human one. The only difference is I don't have to bother about shaving my legs. In motion, you also wouldn't understand anything if you don't look too closely at me. All the inclinations, steps, shaking hands are quite smooth and soft. This was separately calibrated through a hellish room, with a bunch of equipment and 2 harsh mechanics. The only thing is that everything can be a little more mechanical, but this is, again, if you look straight ahead. This is a future, a very futuristic one, which is so frightening to humanity from science fiction, and it became reality in me. That's just, the very fact that you're a cyborg is, as it were, not too encouraging. Even in the support group for people with prosthesis, they don't fully understand me, because the people there have, well, at maximum, a prosthetic arm or a leg, and I'm all that, and people are scared morally. Apparently, such a sinister valley syndrome. If anyone doesn't know, this is a thing when a person is afraid of robots and too natural toys, when something is too much like a person, but just not a person. Like, you don't know what to expect from unknown garbage. And I'm used to it. I'm fine. There are even some advantages, though it's better not to talk about them aloud. Otherwise, they'll be considered mentally divergent. Yes, I have psychological tests every 6 months. This is an obligatory item for their research, such as to see if I can handle it or not. So about the advantages. Did you know that artificial legs don't feel tired? I didn't. On the contrary, I was once very frightened by an old neighbor who had a wooden prosthesis. He said that a prosthesis is a constant pain and tension in the remaining part of the leg. I was very afraid that I would have this one, but it turned out it depends on the quality of the prosthesis. I don't even feel mine, only a little pressure, but it comes only with heavy work. There's no fatigue, but there are as many forces as you like. Of course, my hands are specially programmed. I can win just by the click of my fingers in arm wrestling. You just wouldn't move my hand if I didn't want you to. Bags, again, are very convenient to carry. But there are always these buts that poison life even when you yourself seem to be trying not to give up. In my case, this is a relationship. Any relationship, not just with guys. The fact is that my loved ones don't love me anymore? Probably so. I really see how my own mom is afraid and she bypasses me. And my dad tries not to touch me because he is toughly juggling with my prosthesis. And so the question is, why was it necessary to save me and then torment me? Friends seem to treat everything with understanding, but they're also not eager to embrace me. Anyway, everything tactile for me is prohibited now, because no one wants mechanical touches. I don't know what this is all about. Fear or something like uselessness. Well, something like shaking a pen from a frying pan or hugging a laptop. It seems possible, but on the other hand, what's the point? After all, the piece of iron doesn't feel anything. I will say for everyone, it feels. I feel. Not touches, of course. If it's not some parts of the head or body, but in the moral terms, it is very devastating, believe me. The feeling that they disdain you, they're afraid of you, or try not to notice. And this is my personal hell. And with the guys, anyway, everything is very interesting. My appearance hasn't changed too much. Even, I would say it has become more attractive, because artificial thighs don't get fat and aren't covered with cellulite. Plus, plastic was in many places not cosmetic, but forced. But this isn't written on my face. And of course, I get the attention of guys, especially when I wear shorts and a low neckline. Then I'll just get a maximum of compliments, and for my age and taste. It's nice, yes, especially since I wouldn't refuse my own boyfriend. The funny thing is that I immediately say, I have prosthesis. I don't know. Maybe they don't believe it, because at first, everything is going well. I meet a guy, talk, go on dates, and everything seems nice and good. And then it comes to bed. Remember when I said that I look beautiful only in clothes? But without clothes, as soon as a guy begins to undress me, I no longer have a boyfriend. And they say that appearance isn't important, that I'm just a mega human being, that no scars will make them turn away. Absolutely everything at the undressing stage is dumped. It's good if they don't scream and scare my neighbors. What remains of my self-esteem after a series of experiments with guys can be wrapped in a fist and put in a pocket. There will still be some room. But I can't blame the guys either. It's unlikely that if I were in their place, I would behave somehow differently. Honestly, fairly, it must be said that among all this hopeless chaos, there were those who then returned and remained close, but never as a guy or just a loved one. Friends, acquaintances, yes, but not lovers. So now I have a lot of friends who don't go to the beach with me. By the way, I don't go either. I can't. Why am I telling you all this? The future has already come. We have cool equipment, robots, space flights, and even prostheses that are indistinguishable from real limbs and can replace some organs. Science and medicine have gone very far ahead. There are even some trying to clone people. Here are just people who are real and not related to cool developments, are not ready for the future yet. For most, what I am is like wild, scary, and completely unnecessary. They are ready to accept science fiction on faith until that science fiction sits with them at the same desk or lives in the next room. And if they gave me the opportunity to choose, prosthesis or death, honestly, I don't know what I'd choose. But judging by my current life, it would hardly be consent. Write in the comments how you feel about robots and robotic prosthesis. Is a cyborg cool, or is it a nightmare? Share the video with science fiction lovers. And remember that no mechanisms can replace your simple human warmth.